Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. The topic for today's webinar is streamlining decisions with a connected quality management system and electronic batch record. This is how we plan to spend our time here today. So we will do quick speaker introductions. We will take a brief look at digital maturity and life sciences. We'll then take a deeper dive into review by exception as a strategic imperative, and finally wrap up with a Q&A session at the end. Before we jump in, let's just cover a quick few housekeeping items. So if you need any assistance throughout today's broadcast, there is a chat function at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to send us a message there and we will work to resolve any issues. And while the Q&A session is at the end of the broadcast, please feel free to post any questions in the Q&A function throughout the presentation, and we will get to questions that we're able to at the end. So I'm Nicole Sherman. I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager with MasterControl, and I am excited to be joined here by James Wells for this webinar. So James, if you want to give a quick intro, that'd be great.
Thanks, Nicole, and thanks to MasterControl for hosting me on this webinar. I'm excited to join you guys here today. I'm a research analyst at L&S Research, covering collaborative quality and unified performance excellence. So I'm excited to join you guys for this topic today. Thank you.
Thanks, James. So we will first, like I said, do a quick overview of some learnings around digital maturity and life sciences. So at MasterControl, we recently conducted a survey with over 300 quality and manufacturing professionals across life sciences, so in the pharma, med device, med tech, biotech industries. And our objective was really to dig into digital maturity, understand what that looks like for these different organizations we talked to, how it's prioritized, and what their plans are in terms of digitalization of their processes. So first, the research indicated that over 58% of respondents view digitization as a high priority for their organization. And they also report that they have a formal digital transformation plan in place today. So we found this really encouraging, right? Over half of folks are really prioritizing digitization for their organization, putting resources, time, investment against digital maturity. So we wanted to dig a bit more into what that really looks like for these organizations. And to do that, we shared this digital maturity model that you see here, and wanted to see where organizations fell today along this spectrum. So I'll just go through these four tiers quickly, starting on the left with manual. So that's essentially all of your processes, or most, are primarily on paper. Moving up the maturity model, we have digital. So this implies that some processes are digital, and there may be some basic automation. However, there are sizable gaps, likely siloed operations and processes across manufacturing, quality, and other parts of the organization. Moving up, we've got connected as our third level of maturity. And that's basically what it sounds like. A company has embraced a digital first, a data first mindset, connecting their manufacturing, their QMS, or other systems that they have in place for their processes. And they've been implemented more extensively. So likely at every site, hopefully on every line. And there's a deeper interoperability and enterprise-wide standardization for connected. And then finally, we have intelligent. That's really the North Star of digital maturity. And it's taking connected to that next level, right? So real-time streams of data and information that can dynamically and even autonomously update processes and procedures. So really, again, that North Star where folks are aiming to eventually get. So as I've gone through this, hopefully you're maybe thinking of your organization or your industry and kind of thinking about where folks may fall. And this is what we saw in our survey, is most folks are within that digital tier. So some level of digitalization, which, aligns to our earlier stat of 58% saying that digitalization is a priority. But there's definitely room for improvement, room to make those processes much more connected across departments. And there are plenty of motivators that we saw for digital maturity. The most notable being gaining a competitive advantage. In today's economy and the market, anything to gain a competitive edge is really critical. Other drivers might be just IT requirements, merger acquisitions, or just that organizational imperative to connect across departments. But today, there's the opportunity. We recognize the benefits, right, of moving up, but that's easier said than done. Today, we still see misalignment between departments in a lot of cases. In that research we did, less than half of quality professionals reported that their QMS is integrated with their EBR, or their electronic batch record. So just to kind of bring to life that opportunity to become more connected and experience those benefits of true connectivity. So that's kind of a nice segue here for us to dig deeper into those benefits of true connectivity and what going from digital to connected, intelligent can mean for the industry. I'm going to pass the time over to James, who's going to dig deeper into that topic, particularly when it comes to review by exception.
Thanks, Nicole. Before we get into this topic of review by exception and the accumulation of electronic batch records that enable that capability, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to L&S Research. We are a vision and mission-driven organization. Our vision is industrial organizations that are agile, autonomous, and sustainable. And we are on a mission to empower industry leaders with powerful insights to drive their transformation programs. We have an outcome-driven membership model that's focused on delivering targeted insights customized to each client's unique situation. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to the research team at L&S Research. So we're a small but mighty organization. We're led by founder Matthew Littlefield, who's our president and research lead. Tom Comstock is our research fellow. He leads our industrial transformation readiness research. Niels Anderson is a principal analyst. He leads our factory of the future and industrial strategy research. Peter Bussey is a senior advisor on future of industrial work and EHS. Bob Francis covers autonomous plant and APM. Allison Kuhn covers future of industrial work EHS. Vivek Murugesan covers architecture and analytics. And you've already met me. I cover collaborative quality and UPX for the organization. So review by exception is most certainly an issue for quality, but it is not just an issue for quality. Really, review by exception is a strategic initiative for chief operating officers in life sciences companies in order to help their organizations drive out lost time and efficiency drains on their organization. Speed time to market. Time to market is the arms race of pharma, and speeding therapies to patients is critical, as well as managing inventory levels. And all of these things are impacted by a review by exception capability, where an eQMS is a central player in this capability set, but is certainly not the only player. We see there are three capabilities that are needed in order to enable electronic batch record accumulation and review by exception, and those are a system of systems suite of interoperable software and hardware, flexible automation to design unique workflows for the review by exception logic, and then analytics that evaluate record components for exceptions. As you can see here, an eQMS is not a standalone solution in the service of review by exception. It also touches on things like MES or batch execution systems, so MES or BES, LIMS, laboratory information management systems, with some lab execution capability, hopefully, ERP, APM, asset performance management, and human resource management systems or human resource information systems, where many of the record components of an electronic batch record originate from. So are most eQMSs up to the challenge for electronic batch records and review by exception? Most are not. So we see eQMS capabilities on a continuum from quality process automation, essentially paper on glass, those first efforts to establish a digital system from a paper system prior, all the way up to a collaborative quality enabler. And so the typical capabilities that are lower on this spectrum for quality process automation are for those vendors that are largely document and event driven pieces of software, and they have difficulty ingesting continuous time series data that is necessary in order to enable a review by exception from an electronic batch record. There are a few vendors, including MasterControl here today, that are pivoting to a data-first approach where these capabilities do exist. However, the capabilities and the realities are somewhat different. So most eQMSs are highly capable of integrating across the suite of software applications. However, most integrations are not actually performed. The most common integration for an eQMS is with ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, and an MES if one exists in the organization. And so there are some challenges across the eQMS software space. However, there are also challenges in user adoption, right? So it's not just a problem of capabilities with the eQMS software. Users have a significant role to play in the lack of adoption of the electronic batch record leading to review by exception. There's really three significant hurdles that stand in the way of this electronic batch record accumulation, and those are represented here as paper data, paper records for data, process automation, and the use of analytics. So a few data points to bring those points to life. Similar to the research that Nicole presented a few pages back, most are very early in the journey to an intelligent approach to their enterprise quality management or their quality processes. In our research, we found that 72% of life sciences companies still have some quality data in paper or flat file form, and that essentially data that is in paper or flat file form is invisible to the electronic batch record and is not able to be acted upon by automation or intelligence. And so this is a significant challenge to the development of an electronic batch record and review by exception. The next thing we see is a lack of prioritization for the accumulation of electronic batch records automatically, right? So in our research, the automation, excuse me, the automation of electronic batch records was only the third priority between leaders and followers, and this requires a significant recalibration in order to really drive business value that I've talked about already in an earlier slide. Now, I mentioned earlier that quality, that review by exception is not a quality concern alone. Certainly quality owns typically the batch record approval process, but heads of operations and heads of partner organizations within life sciences also should have it as a priority. But the interesting thing about quality is that even though they own the batch record review and approval process, they're only sixth most likely to apply analytics to quality data in service of their own needs. So these are some significant challenges in user adoption for moving forward with the electronic batch record and the review by exception. Of course, there are many other challenges with this approach. Review by exception is only enabled by an electronic batch record that is complete, and there's many facets to a complete electronic batch record. And so let's take a look at several of them individually here. Often life science companies are on the leading edge of digitization of their manufacturing operations. And so gathering this data from devices and sensors on the manufacturing floor or in the quality lab is a difficult challenge for most eQMSs. I mentioned earlier the continuum of eQMS capabilities. One of the challenges is ingestion of continuous time series data that is typically generated from machinery or equipment in quality labs or on manufacturing floors. And so connecting an eQMS system to an MES system, to a LIMS system, to an APM system is a time-consuming exercise and really not the most efficient approach. We will cover later what is a more efficient approach to this. But the good news here is there's a wealth of data on the manufacturing shop floor that contributes to the electronic batch record. Significantly, qualification of personnel also is a key input to the batch record. So you want to make sure that the people that were associated with building the batch that you're reviewing are qualified to do the work that they're doing. They've taken all the training that they're supposed to take, and they're current on that training. And so this is actually kind of a difficult area because training and qualification in organizations is owned in various places, and oftentimes the ownership is distributed across some functions. So there's some training and educational responsibilities that are typically assigned or managed by human resources organizations. Quality has had a traditional role in competency management, competency record keeping and assessments of competency to perform work. And so we find that those record artifacts might be in various systems and might be in several systems and often are not contained in one single system. So we might find qualification records in an MES, manufacturing execution system, batch execution system, depending on the modality of manufacturing. The learning management system for the HR organization, sometimes an eQMS can have those records, and we're finding now the development of a record keeping capability within connected frontline worker applications. And so the challenge here is to be able to stitch all the components of the qualification record together and make them available for the batch review activity. So asset performance, asset health is a key part of the batch record, and also process cleanliness, right? So oftentimes when an asset is maintained, when there's a maintenance activity that's done on a tank or a pump or a valve within a system, particularly in life sciences, there must be a cleanliness protocol that's followed. And so not only is the maintenance of the equipment important, but also the cleanliness check after maintenance is done is a key component of the electronic batch record. And similar to training, these records are not always in the same place. So even though a cleanliness protocol might be part of a APM record of a maintenance activity, or a computerized maintenance management system, CMMS record of a maintenance activity, it also is done as a function of between batch cleanliness. And so those checks might not be within that same system. And so there's, again, a similar disparate spread of record components around the organization that is really required in order to pull the record together. So in life sciences in particular, quality of the inputs is critical to the success of the batch. This is true really in all manufacturing, but it's particularly true in life sciences and pharma especially. So having full supply chain visibility and full characterization of the raw material is a critical component of the batch record. These can live in various places depending on the organization. Again, similar to training records and maintenance records and cleanliness records. These may live in ERP. Sometimes they're in eQMS if it's a strong supplier quality management activity within eQMS, or maybe even MES or BES could contain these records as well. So until the FDA's guidance on process analytical technology, which is a little over 20 years old, is fully realized, there will always exist some asynchronous offline quality testing that has to be done as an offline activity. That testing associated with raw material incoming, intermediates, and finished goods are typically the lab testing activities, and these have to be coordinated in order to be as close as possible within, or optimal as you can get to the completion of the batch, in order to get closer and closer to real time or near real time for that review by exception. So ideally, laboratory devices feed their information up to a laboratory information management system, LIMS, and ideally, and the capabilities vary widely here. Some LIMS also have what we call lab execution system capabilities, similar to MES or BES for lab testing as well. And so the ability to consume those test results in as close to real time as possible is a critical component of the batch record as well. So we talked earlier about a better architectural approach, because the reality is that it's very unlikely that an eQMS is going to be integrated with an MES and also then with the LIMS, and also then with an APM or a CMMS, and also then with the human resource management system. All of those point-to-point integrations are inefficient, right? They can be done, but there's a lot of work involved in those things. And this is actually partly what results in the reality of eQMS only being connected robustly to ERP and then maybe an MES as well. But a faster and easier way to achieve what you're looking for is to leverage an industrial application platform or an industrial data platform to gather the elements of the record together for an eQMS to reach down into the platform and pull the elements that are necessary in order to complete the review process. This approach is far more efficient than connecting each software individually to another companion software in the platform, because those integrations and connectivity points have to be maintained. And as software gets revised very frequently in some cases, those interconnections become challenging to administer and manage. And so connecting to an application platform and data platform really enables the three capabilities that you see here around data orchestration, analytical capability, and workflow automation. So all of these capabilities exist in some eQMSs, including MasterControl, but they also exist in the application and data platform layer. And so there's a lot of capability, a lot of horsepower that is enabled by this approach. So the essential capabilities of electronic batch record accumulation enabling a review by exception capability are that system of systems interoperability between enterprise software that generate the various elements of a record, flexible process automation to allow organizations to design their own unique batch review process that matches the maturity of that organization, the continuum of where they are, and then advanced industrial analytics to evaluate those elements of data from manufacturing shop floor for laboratory information management systems, and of course, more importantly, supplier inputs. So a little bit about how we do work at L&S. We provide customized insights for our clients through our maturity assessment methodology. We assess companies across 5 levels of maturity, from ad hoc or absent all the way up to an embedded digital approach, and across 9 areas of practices across these 5 levels of maturity. And we determine from this methodology what the strengths are of an organization and what they're behind on. And then we work with those clients to develop customized engagement plans that meet those particular clients' unique situation. And all of this is in service of pivoting across the chasm from vision to value. And so we deal, we have clients at all the different stages of digital maturity. And what we found through years and years of our research is that what you do to build your practice in incubate and prove in the early stages is oftentimes things that you might have to change in order to scale and embed your digital approach into your quality operation or your manufacturing operation as is appropriate. I like to say it as what got you here won't get you there. And so organizations need to change in order to scale, and we help organizations figure out that shift.
Great. Thank you, James. Thanks for sharing some LNS research and your analysis. Very insightful. That is it for the content portion of the webinar. We will now move into our Q&A. We've got a few questions here. Feel free to submit any other questions that might pop into your head as we go through, and we'll get through a few of these here. So to start, James, what part does an eQMS play in electronic batch records and review by exception?
So that's a great question. So the capabilities of enterprise quality management software are really around a process engine in order to enable some automation of the review processes. To the extent that quality data may be resident within the electronic quality management or the enterprise quality management software as well, then that makes that review process easier. But it really is primarily the process engine, the logic engine that drives or can drive that EBR accumulation and review by exception capability.
Great. I love that way of thinking about that. Another question. My quality data is mostly on paper. Can my organization achieve review by exception?
I'd say the answer is a qualified yes. So the progression to electronic batch record and review by exception is just that, a progression. And so as we've both shown in our respective research, there is a long way to go to digitize quality data and really achieve the vision of a full electronic batch record. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't start with what you have, right? So it's a journey, it's a progression, and doing partial electronic batch records and achieving some of the efficiency gains while marrying it with a manual batch record review for the manual paper or flat file versions or portions of a batch record is a good way to prove the business value of the whole approach. And really drive a hunger for the digitization of all the elements of a batch record in an organization. Great.
Next question we've got here. What is the role of advanced industrial analytics and review by exception? Isn't it just collecting the record elements together?
So collecting the record elements together is the checkbox activity. So, do I have the records? Are they present? Check yes or no. However, as we talked about earlier in the talk, what the data contains, what are the trends? Are there any statistical anomalies? Are the second level of question that needs to be asked in order to really complete a review by exception that is meaningful, right? So just having the record present isn't sufficient. We have to crack that record open and analyze the contents of that record in order to make sure there are no exceptions in that record that need to be reviewed. And that's the role of advanced industrial analytics, both in supplier data as well as quality data and shop floor related data.
Great. So we've got one more question here, and that will conclude our Q&A. Let's see, what is the most efficient way to connect all of the necessary software systems together to achieve an electronic batch record?
Yeah, so towards the end, we talked about our industrial transformation reference architecture as a more efficient approach in order to connect all the elements that produce batch record components together. The reality of eQMS implementations is that they are not connected to many other industrial software applications directly. Most common is ERP and MES, if MES exists. But across the suite of industrial software, it isn't typical to connect an eQMS to an APM or to a laboratory information system or to a human resource management system. So those connections are really not done because, frankly, most teams run out of gas before they achieve those implementations. So a faster and easier and more efficient way to do that is by interconnecting the eQMS down to the industrial application or data platform layer to be able to pull that data up as necessary and as relevant in order to feed the batch review process.
Great. Thanks so much for the insight, James. That wraps our Q&A for this webinar. Just a few things before we wrap up. I encourage you to take a moment and scan this QR code. It'll drive you to a more detailed report on the research from MasterControl that I took a quick high-level view through earlier. So I'll leave that on the screen for a second, and again, kind of dives deeper into the benefits of connectivity and into digital maturity. So hopefully you're able to scan that. And then that's a wrap. I want to thank James again and LNS for joining us today to share their insight and research on eQMS and review by exception. And again, thank you for taking the time to join us. Have a good rest of the day.